Greetings, my little ponies out there. I'm Deuce Disden, and I'm coming at you with another My Little Pony Friendship is Magic episode review. This time it's Season 9's episode 23. Only a few more left until I'm finished with the series. It's bittersweet. But this is an episode that almost feels like it came completely out of nowhere, especially in terms of how fun it actually is, at least to me. It contains a lot of elements that I'd love to see in any series, no matter which one it is. But we start off with Spike very much in distress. He's talking to an unknown person about an event that he wasn't prepared for. In fact, there's a whole gang of characters here who are talking to this unknown figure about a mishap that happened, an unexpected situation, something that none of them would have ever have thought would have gone down, especially the way that it did. So we pick up with Big Mac showing off to both Spike and reluctantly to Discord, who is butting in on the situation, that he has plans to propose to Sugar Bell, which I was really surprised by. I wasn't expecting the relationship to get that far, honestly. But hey, that's actually very nice. Like, Big Mac doesn't really have too many things to his name, but something like this feels right for to a certain degree. Like, yeah, yeah, Big Mac's one of the very few romantically inclined characters out there. Why not have this happen? But, he's a pony of few words. So he wanted to do this small gesture, creating all these little notes all over Ponyville that Sugar Bell would trace all the way back here. And that way he would be able to propose to her properly. And where he'd be building a bench, very much like the shelf that he built her before during Hearts and Hooves Day. So, a matching shelf and all that, like this grand, sweet gesture. And while Discord isn't quite in on all of this, he feels it's very unnecessary, very overly complex, overly mushy. Spike is all too on board. He's all about that mushy stuff, and he's all too willing to help Big Mac do this, as they're actually fairly close friends, which, sometimes I forget from time to time. But when they start to go about trying to leave these clues for Sugar Bell, Discord is just not really feeling it. It just does not see the purpose in doing all these just odd clues, and why not just be upfront, just be straightforward. However, once Discord starts laying out all of the apples, Sugar Bell and the Cutie Mark Crusaders suddenly go running past them, completely missing the first clue. And, while Discord just simply wants to hand the apple with the note to the various clues to Sugar Bell, Spike is just like, no, she has to find it. It has to be this romantic gesture. It's all about the discovery. That's what makes it interesting and romantic. And while Spike goes in to try to get a dessert for Big Mac's whole big day, we find Mrs. Cake preparing, as she puts it, 21 specific confections for some reason. And when Spike actually tastes a few of them, oddly enough, they don't taste that great. Meanwhile, while Discord tries his best to get Sugar Bell to actually stumble upon the note, unfortunately she continues to just be oblivious to them all. And so Discord's ultimate goal, his decision is to just make the apple sentient and speak the riddles. So they'll go around to their various locations that they need to be and tell her exactly what the notes say. And so he sends his troops out on their own to go to the various locations and hopefully be discovered by Sugar Bell. And meanwhile, Spike tries to speed up the process because he wants his own confection, so he, wants to help her along in putting these weird notes into all these various different apple-based confections. So he decides he'll use his flame breath in order to transport them into the cakes and pies and confections and stuff. It goes horribly wrong. Like, my god, Spike, I can't believe how badly that went. But outside, Mrs. Cake and Spike discover that, these various little apple creatures are just terrorizing the whole of Ponyville. Also, majorly worth noting, Lyra and Bon Bon propose to each other. Like, they're right there in the background. Like, Lyra is down on one knee? Hoof? Whatever. Like, straight up marrying each other. Like, dude, what? Like, how dare you make that an offhand situation? I want more of that. But last few episodes, why not just have it an offhand situation in the background? Yeah, sure, go for it. But they're married now. You can't convince me otherwise. They are now a couple, now and forever. But when Discord comes in, he does admit that he probably should have been a bit more specific on who the apple creatures would give their message to. So he gets rid of the ones in the nearby vicinity, as we find out that Sugar Belle didn't see any of it. She didn't get any of the messages. So Discord decides to just be more direct like he wanted to and just transport Sugar Belle to the location, only for Big Mac to be nowhere in sight. And as Mrs. Cake is kind of berating Spike for putting down her confections because she's a connoisseur, but, the whole situation is interrupted when Big Mac shows up and Discord and Sugar Belle poof in as well. And Big Mac is none too happy with Discord and his interference for the most part, when suddenly in come the Cutie Mark Crusaders as well as Granny Smith running in, being chased by an unknown figure screaming Sugar Belle's name. We then cut over to the Cutie Mark Crusaders explain their point of view of things, where they were actually helping Sugar Belle create all these various different confections and setting things up in order for her to propose to Big Mac with 21 different confections that would all spell out one big sentence, which would just be asking Big Mac to marry her. And it will be a collection of all of these different words and stuff. Since he's a pony of few words, they would use a lot of words for Sugar Belle to convey her message. With the Cutie Mark Crusaders wanting to help out because they weren't really able to help out the last time they were trying to get Big Mac and Sugar Belle together. So they're really trying to make up for that, which is a very sweet gesture. But as soon as Sugar Belle and the Cutie Mark Crusaders set out with the 22nd confection, which will lead Big Mac to the Cake's residence, they discovered Discord and Spike outside, and not wanting them to, ask any questions and possibly ruin the big reveal, they, tried to figure out a way of just getting around that, which was them racing past them in order not to be seen. And as Sugar Belle goes off on her own to do her own thing, the CMC are tasked with getting that confection to Big Mac. And Apple Bloom is very overzealous as she's all too excited to get a stepsister, with her not really being able to act rationally. I love this image. I love Sweetie Belle's face. Like, my god. Like, whoever storyboarded this is a friggin' genius, because Sweetie Belle's face is so priceless. It's fantastic. But as Big Mac starts to kind of finish up the bench and all that good stuff, the CMC are unable to find him because he's not in a normal location. And Apple Bloom suggests, much to the dismay of the others, that they go search in the last place they would think he'd be, despite the others, Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle, just wanting to stay put and hopefully he'd show up. So they go searching throughout, all of Canter, Ponyville, running into the Big Lebowski ponies and, going to Fluttershy's grotto and even the spa, but they don't find him anywhere, only for Apple Bloom to say, well, we probably should have just stayed put back at the barn, much to the dismay of the other CMC, which you can only guess that they're questioning, why is she the leader again? Like, come on. But we also see that the various Apple creatures that Discord unleashed have started to kind of merge together along the way and started following the CMC back to Sweet Apple Acres. And as the CMC end up coming upon Granny Smith asking if she knows where Big Mac is, she starts to rattle off about this weird dream she had, only for her and the CMC to be ambushed by a giant creature. And we then cut to the situation where the CMC and Granny Smith ran into Big Mac, Sugar Belle, Discord, Spike, and Mrs. Cake, with them being followed by a giant amalgamation apple creature. And while Discord does his best to say, oh no, this isn't my apple creature, I'm not behind it, it starts spewing off all the love notes to Sugar Belle, including the proposal, basically ruining the whole magic of the situation. But Discord says, well, in my defense, at least the message is given now. So Discord's just like, nah, it wasn't all my fault that everything got ruined, you gotta believe me. As, Mrs. Cake is actually surprised that Spike and Discord were helping out Big Mac in trying to get the message to Sugar Belle, while she was helping out Sugar Belle to get the message to Big Mac. Yes, Mrs. Cake, the irony is not lost on any of us, as Discord simply turns all the apples back to normal, and, basically arguments ensue, with Discord, hearing about Spike's exploits with the messages and the confection, and him burning everything, and him just being glad that he's not the only one who messed up, while Spike is being snippy about the fact that the confections weren't that great, while Mrs. Cake is just, adamant about the fact that she was being rushed, so she might have made a few mistakes here and there, but she doesn't want them ruining her good name, while the CMC are just really kind of sad about the fact that they weren't really able to help out Big Mac and Sugar Belle this time around, only for Big Mac and Sugar Belle to have completely disappeared, with Mrs. Cake just going on about the fact that, while it was unfortunate that it worked out this way, she did have fun for the most part. But Spike is just kind of feeling like, oh, we weren't really able to be there for our friend. We felt bad. We felt like we disappointed them, that everything was completely ruined. While Granny Smith is just going on about her dream. But in truth, Big Mac and Sugar Belle went, walking off, just discussing things. And Big Mac just exposits that he feels bad. And we get a revelation that I wasn't actually prepared for. Like, not emotionally prepared for. And it was the fact that Big Mac, he wanted a love story like his parents. He wanted to make this moment perfect, just like their love was. Just like the moment that, his dad proposed to his mom. I think that's how that went. I don't remember if she proposed to him or not, but, he was really hoping that it would be the same kind of love as them, because he kind of idolized their love, which is a situation I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting that to come into play in this way. He was really looking forward to, doing this grand gesture just like his dad did, by showing his mom the apple and pear combination tree. But Sugar Belle says that, well, from the story you told me about your parents, they didn't have it easy either. They had their own share of struggles and hardships, and that just made their bond even deeper. This tree, this amalgamation apple and pear tree is strong because it's together, because they're there for each other. And their bond is one that'll continue to last them far into the future. Much like the bond between Apple Big Mac and Sugar Belle. You know, they're in love. They care about each other. And ultimately, that's all that really matters. How they feel about each other. And so, Big Mac and Sugar Belle propose to each other at the same time, and it is absolutely adorable. It's the sweetest thing ever. With everyone showing up at the last moment to try to make up for all the mess that they created, but it seems like everything worked out for the best. With ultimately everyone learning the lesson that despite the grand gestures, despite all the efforts, it was ultimately the chaotic moments and the simple gestures that mattered the most, which Discord takes credit for him knowing that all along. And we come to find out the person that they were talking to was Applejack, which caught me off guard because I was thinking throughout the whole episode, man, we haven't seen Applejack or any of the main six in this entire episode. And Applejack doesn't even get a speaking role. She's just crying over how sweet the moment was. And we find out that they are in fact at the wedding of Big Mac and Sweetie Belle. Sugar Belle. No, not Sweetie Belle. That's weird. Too many, confectionery names ending in Bell here. But, we have a gathering of the apple and pear families, as well as, Sugar Belle's, her side of things. It's just the few ponies who were trying to, the one Justin Bieber-esque pony who was trying to get to her, which I thought was a little bit weird. Like, Sugar Belle, don't you have a family or anything like that? But, we get this nice, simple wedding moment, and it's sweet as all get out. It's a nice moment, and it's magical, really. I wasn't expecting just such a sweet lead up to one of the last moments of the series, and it's a great way to go out for Big Mac's character, that ultimately the one pony of few words got to just express the most he ever did with someone that he really cares about. And Discord has one last simple gesture of his own, and that's a bunch of singing apples. Singing and hoping Big Mac and Sugar Belle have a great marriage life. With Discord showing that he cared a lot more than he was really letting on in the end. This was a great episode, at least for me, because I love seeing different characters just come together in weird and interesting ways. Not to mention the continuity of Big Mac actually really being the one to take it the most out of the story of how his parents met. Ultimately, it makes sense that Apple Bloom wouldn't have connected with that, to a more personal degree, because it's not like she's in a relationship, nor is Applejack. She's all about the farm life and all that down home life. But Big Mac, he wants to start a family. He wants to be in a relationship with Sugar Belle. He cares about her, and that kind of became his thing. And I'm glad we did this. I'm glad this was one of the episodes leading up to the end of the series, because it's a nice cap to his character, if nothing else. And it's always good to see Discord hanging out with other ponies, because honestly, he's the most fun when he's just messing with other characters. And him and Spike just showing that ultimately they were Big Mac's closest friends, which is still kind of weird to actually say out loud. It's just like, it's an unlikely pairing, but I love unlikely pairings. Those are my favorite kind of stories, when characters you never think would interact, and this way of telling this story through everyone else's perspective was just fun, inventive, and just really enriching for me, if nothing else. But that's enough gushing from me. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you feel about this episode? What did you think about the marriage of Big Mac and Sugar Belle? And how did you feel about the fact that Big Mac really cared about, how his parents came together and that influenced how he felt about Sugar Belle and how he wanted to propose to her, how he wanted to make everything completely special. But it was the simple stuff that actually made it special. How do you feel about these various grand gestures that they were trying to do? Would you have liked it to be more a bit on the down low about the fact that this was going to end in a wedding? Or were you happy that everything worked out the way they did? Definitely tell me in the comment section below. And if you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below so I might better myself in future videos. And subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you don't miss out on the last few episodes of My Little Pony there are to review. I'm not emotionally ready, but all good things must come to an end, and I've really enjoyed this series. And much like Discord here, I had more of a passion for it than I thought I would have. And it's bittersweet to see things go in this direction, but it was inevitable. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google DewsDizDin. I'm everywhere, for better and sometimes for worse, depending on what you find. And until the next video, just remember that grand gestures are nice, and they can, really give your significant other a great fuzzy feeling, but sometimes it's the simple stuff that just shows how much you care that really matter in the end. Just showing that you love them, they love you. That's all that really matters. And if need be, your friends will be there to help you every step of the way. Till next time, I'm DewsDizDin, and it's high time I went to bed. I'm not crying, you're crying. Until next time, bye-bye.